So, hello everybody. My name is Carol McCullough. I'm the founder of the Butterfly Readers. Today I'm going to do a short video, just going over a slide that I have already sent out to some teachers, and I just want to work through the first, and I'm just going to do the first two slides, and that will take us about 15 to 20 minutes. And then we're going to have a break, and then I go to the next ones and until we've completed them. What I would like you to do would be to print hard copies of what I've sent you, and then you can make notes on them, and you can put your questions that you might want to ask me on those notes and email the questions to me. And then we can, in our next session, we can discuss those. This video recording is by way of you going over the theory of the work that we have to do. In about a week's time, we're going to meet via Skype for the practical lesson, online, face-to-face. So let's get on with it. Our first slide, I'm going to go to slide mode, is teaching reading really is rocket science. And our first slide says teaching reading is rocket science, and it says inarguably the development of proficient reading ability is the single most important skill a child can learn by the end of the third grade. Let us do a few things. Let me show you a few things. I'm going to take you through a process where we look at what is proficient reading. Let me change the screen to, didn't know I could do that. Okay, so I'm going to change this, and I'm going to work on this terminology. Proficient reading ability. What is a proficient reading ability? That is our question. Let's do it this way. I want you to take notes as we go along. Let's take the word inarguably. Inarguably. A proficient reader will know that that word has a prefix and a suffix. A proficient reader will know that in this particular instance means not, and therefore will be able to say inaccurate means not accurate. Insufficient means not sufficient. A proficient reader will know that this word means able, and therefore not able to argue with this fact. That is what a proficient reader would do. So that is just one of the skills that we teach children to become proficient readers. This is an example of one of the many things a proficient reader can do. So let us look at, what do we say a proficient reader is? Before I go there, I want to tell you that what I just did, and with this word, is probably called to annotate. To annotate means to make notes, to take out and analyze. And annotation is one of the academic vocabulary. That should be vo, not vec. Vocabulary. Vocabulary. Sorry, I pressed the button. Vocabulary words that we teach children. And I would encourage you to teach the word annotate by the 4th grade. You can teach it earlier, but it is ideal to teach it by the 4th grade. That is annotate. Proficient reading ability. What is a proficient reading ability? Let us look at that. What is proficient reading? Proficient reading is more complex and requires higher level skills in fluency, in handling multisyllable words, in comprehension, vocabulary, and skills such as the ability to extract necessary information. We just looked at 2 things in a proficient reader. And we took a multisyllable word, which was part of the vocabulary, and we extracted information from that word. That is what proficient readers do. You have here a table that tells you all about the things that proficient readers do when they read. We have before, during, and after reading skills for proficient readers. We have before, during, and after reading. And what do they do at each stage? And we will discuss this when we start looking at the difference between a struggling reader and an ineffective reader. But I just want you to know that proficient readers have certain skills, and those skills lack in ineffective readers. Our next slide says teaching reading is rocket science. Reading Truth Part 1. And this Reading Truth Part 1 tells us that reading is an incredibly complex and natural process. The operative words here is complex and unnatural. Unlike learning to speak, our brains are not wired to learn how to read through mere exposure to print. This is very important. I want to take this and keep it aside. Let us look at this. What is evidence-based approach? And that will tell us what this is here. So let's look at what is an evidence-based approach. What is an evidence-based approach in teaching reading? An evidence-based approach first of all, is not a curriculum, nor is it a set of materials. Instead, it is research-based data as well as results identified through a consensus amongst expert practitioners who monitor outcomes. While reading is the most basic of skills, teaching reading is a complex process that is often misunderstood. I want us to focus on this. In the Butterfly Readers, we do not teach curriculum. We do not teach a set of materials. What we do have is what the child needs. Our process is child-centered. That does not mean we don't have materials that we use, but it's not about our materials. It is about what the child needs. So that is what a evidence-based approach in teaching is. Now I'm going to go back to what is a proficient reader. A proficient reader, before reading, understands that reading is a process to make meaning. They build up their background knowledge on the subject before they begin. And I'm going to pause here for a moment and talk to you about this issue. This is one of the cornerstones. Sorry, this thing loves jumping around. This is one of the cornerstones or one of the key components of the butterfly readers. Building background knowledge. And they use that background knowledge as they read. Important, before they read, they set a goal, they have a purpose, and they are aiming for fluency. Unlike ineffective readers that think about reading only as decoding one word at a time, we call that word calling. It's not reading. Ineffective readers don't expect to make sense of what they read. They start reading without thinking about the topic, the language, or the structure of the text. And they have no goal whatsoever why they read. Let's go to the second part. During reading. Effective readers, proficient readers, skilled readers give their complete attention to the reading task. Have you ever seen kids watching TV and reading, or with their earphones on and reading? That is not a skill. That is a distraction. Proficient readers keep a constant check on their understanding. They make sure that they know what they're reading. They adjust their reading rate to match purpose and reading material. And I always describe it this way. I say a proficient reader, when he goes downhill, he applies brakes. When he goes uphill, he accelerates. When he goes over rocky terrain, he goes into his 4x4 mode. When a skilled, proficient reader comes across words they don't know, they stop, they take the words apart, they employ different skills. They don't just sail through it. Proficient readers monitor their reading comprehension, and they do so often because it becomes automatic for them. They match their reading strategies to a variety of reading materials. They read nonfiction differently from fiction. They read mystery different from romance. They read poetry different from a play. They have different strategies for reading different materials, and they read all of those materials. They stop only to use a fix-up strategy when they do not understand, and that is unlike ineffective readers who do not know whether they understand or not. They do not understand the concept of varying reading rates. They read in one voice, and it's normally very fast because they think that reading fast is fluent reading. It is not. They do not monitor their own comprehension. They lose their place often. Why is this thing doing this? No. What is going on here? This thing wants this. Sorry, thing wants to do funny things. They lose their place often. They seldom use any fix-up strategies. They do not self-monitor, and they do not self-monitor, and they don't ask themselves, does what I read make sense? Does it sound right? Does it look right? They do not do that at all. After reading, the proficient reader decides if they have achieved their goal for reading. They respond personally and critically to what they read by making connections. And they make connections text to text, text to self, and text to the world. We will talk about those connections. They evaluate their own comprehension of what they've read. They summarize the major ideas, major points, key areas of their reading. And they seek additional information from outside sources, and they ask questions. And they ask questions before they read, while they read, and after they've read. Proficient readers do not know that what they have read. They are unable to respond critically to what they have read, although they may have a limited personal response, and they do not follow reading with comprehension or self-check. That is what this thing is in the way. That is what our proficient readers versus our ineffective readers, that is how they differ. So we've looked at what a proficient reader is, and we've looked at an evidence-based approach. And the key things to remember here is an evidence-based approach is not curriculum-centered or material-centered. It is child-centered. And it is research, it's based on research. It is what the child wants to, requires, not wants. The child doesn't even know. It is what the child requires. I'm going to stop at these two slides, take a break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do the next two. So they're going to be in little parts. You have now time to look at the slides, write down your questions, and send them your questions to me. Thank you, and bye-bye. See you soon.